My name is Dr. Chin Ho.
I'm Dr. Samuel Bayan.
Hey, I am Dr. Asobo.
Hello, students. My name is Dr. Z. And since you're here today, let's learn about the weapons of World War I.
La Germanie, c'était bien. Il y avait beaucoup des armes. Ils ont bien gagné
Hold
l'Amérique.
on, hold on. Mr. Asobo, please, English, please.
I'm sorry. Germany had a lot of good weapons during war. They used weapons such as atmospheric War 98. The Model 1871. The Model 1871 was the first successful example of a bolt-action design firing a metallic cartridge anywhere in the world. Maxim MG08. The Maxim MG08 became the world's first portable fully automatic machine gun system. The Germans used it as a standard machine gun throughout the World War I. Germany also used a lot of poisonous gas to take advantage of the enemy. Gases such as chlorine gas, tear gas, phosgene gas, and most dangerous of all, mustard gas. Mustard gas caused severe burning of skin, eyes, and respiratory tract.
There was an increase in the U.S. economy. The Great Migration allowed African Americans to find better job opportunities in the North, and they also started a new cultural generation called the Harlem Renaissance. The war also brought billions of dollars to the U.S. because they sold many weapons to small foreign countries at war, and unfortunately, this also led to the sinking of Lusitania. U.S. exports to Europe rose from $1.479 billion in 1913 to $4.062 billion in 1917. Suppose that the United States had stayed out of the war, and that as a result, all trade with Europe was cut off. Suppose further that the resources that would have been used to produce exports for Europe were able to produce only half as much value when reallocated to other purposes, such as producing goods for the domestic market or exports for non-European countries. Then the loss of output in 1917 would have been approximately $2 billion per year. This is about 3.7% of GNP in 1917, and only about 6.3% of the total U.S. cost of the war. The first and most important mobilization decision was the size of the army. When the United States entered the war, the army stood at 200,000, hardly enough to have a decisive impact in Europe. However, on May 18, 1917, a draft was imposed and the numbers were increased rapidly. Initially, the expectation was that the United States would mobilize an army of 1 million. The number, however, would go much higher. Overall, some 4.79 million Americans would serve in World War I, some 2.084 million would reach France, and 1.39 million would see active combat. Once the size of the army had been determined, the demand on the economy became obvious. Although the means to satisfy them did not, food and clothing, guns and ammunition, places to train, and the means of transport. The Navy also had to be expanded to protect American shipping and troop transports. Contracts immediately began flowing from the Army and Navy to the private sector. The result, of course, was a rapid increase in federal spending from $477 million in 1916 to a peak of $8.45 million in October 1917. Congress responded to the call for higher taxes with the War Revenue Act. This act increased the personal and corporate income tax rates and established new excise, excess profit, and luxury taxes. The tax rate for an income of $10,000 with 4 exemptions went from 1.2% in 1916 to 7.8%. For incomes of $1 million, the rate went from 10.3% in 1916 to 70.3% in 1918. These increases in taxes and the increase in nominal income raised revenues from $930 million in 1916 to $4 million in 1918. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary William Gibbs McAdoo crisscrossed the country peddling war bonds, even enlisting the help of Hollywood stars and Boy Scouts. The prevalence of patriotic themes created social pressure to purchase the Liberty bonds, but in practice the new bondholders did not make a tangible personal sacrifice in buying war bonds.
Hey, my name is Dr. Z, and one of the main weapons of World War I was the machine gun. one of the most common machine gun designs was the Hiram Maximum rifle. It's based off an 1884 design and can carry and shot more than 450 to 600 rounds per minute.
Warfare is new war type battles that are being fought in wars now. In the olden days, people met up in a line in a musket fire and just fired at each other, met in one battlefield against each other. Now you're just dug into this giant hole with multiple people for maybe weeks to months on end with very little food, unsanitary conditions, disease was running rampant, there was famine, everyone was just sick, depressed, or dying around you. And while that's happening, you have mortar shells everywhere, blasting away, constantly under fire by the enemy, not knowing where they are, and if you get up, that could be your last step you take. Biological warfare was a new innovation of its time at this point in warfare. Now you can kill multiple enemies silently without having to fire a single bullet. It's more deadly and more precise than a bullet, but also psychologically on the mind, it was more gruesome. You see your friend just die out right in front of you, spitting up blood. As a soldier, that will demoralize you, and that will also make you feel like, whoa, why am I fighting this? And next thing you know, 3 seconds later, you might be dead as well. So to the mind, the soldier's mind, he's already facing constant machine gun fire, constant mortar blast. His mind is already a complete wreck. So if you add in psychological warfare and biological warfare, that will completely alter the field and the enemy or the allies' perspective.
Called the Harlem Renaissance. We can check that out. Just wait.
Oh, hello, man.